So you've done the self-help and you've dipped into some personal development, but now you ask the question, now what? What can you do? Well, if you want to escape the apathy, step right this way. So twice a year, I teach a course called Autonomy. It's a 12-week personal development and training course. What people get out of it is multifaceted. There's curriculum, there's exercises, there's camaraderie, you make new friends. There's a whole lot of interesting things. We're going to hear a sample from the course right now, and let's take a look at the value these students are getting. When I retired from the corporate world and I chose not to go back into the corporate world, I didn't have a revenue plan. I just felt that I needed to answer questions, and that was more important than going and getting another job or doing anything else. I didn't know what moves to make in life until I got a better idea of the map. Right. I discovered in the middle of the wilderness that the map I had was not reflective of the terrain, and that can be a very dangerous thing. So I'm going to study the terrain. I'm going to throw this map away, and I'm going to study this terrain so I can make my own map. And then I can go anywhere I want in this map because now I've mapped it out. I've had physical interaction with these areas and I've written it down and these sort of things. So I was able to pursue a parallel why. Like, I wanted to learn, but the purpose of that learning was to output it for other people so that they knew about these pitfalls and perils sooner than later. And they didn't have to run up against a career sacrificing type of event without some foresight and how those things work, these sort of things. So it was learning about that which they've hidden from us, because I knew what was being hidden was super valuable, because they give us all the stuff that's not valuable. They hide for purposes of power and wealth and control things that are super valuable. So if you can learn what they're hiding, then you have a much better, like, even playing field where you can take actions and actually get consequences that are desirable. And being able to produce audio content was a great start. And then I wanted to learn how to edit video content. And that was all a mystery to me up until Paul Verge came to interview me, and he showed up with a hockey bag full of tripods and cameras and all audio and lights. And I was like, whoa, how's all this go on? So now I'm seeing behind the scenes, like, if Paul can learn it, I could probably learn it too with some help. And then, so my first two films, I didn't even have a camera, but I learned editing and I had things to say. So there's text on screen. You have to be able to read. They're not the best films, but that's how I got to my later films. And then probably by 2008, I borrowed money from Lisa's sister, Heather, who used to live next door here, but she moved. And we bought a digital video camera. And then I made another film, and there's filmed footage in there that I'd actually shot. And these types of things, the podcast, the videos, it's not earning a lot of money. There's no Google ads. There's no pay-per-view. It was just out there for free. What I had as an income source by that point, from 2006 on forward, was an online learning community. So the first one was the Eighth Estate think tank, and the second one was the Tragedy and Hope community, which is technically still up, but all the people participating are over here in Autonomy and Grand Theft World. And probably around 2010, we're discovering the trivium, and I already had the great books of the Western world, and I was looking for whatever the trivium was, but I didn't have the word for it. I was like, is there a method by which we can learn and then reciprocate that information back out to the public, like active literacies? I didn't know the verbiage of these things. I just knew that there's things going on and the public's not being told the truth, and what's the format to get people to realize, right? And I didn't realize that some people, because of their hypnotic programming from society, they can't hear certain things, right? They can't hear that Obama dropped more bombs in like 1 year of his presidency than George W. Bush, with two wars dropped in 8 years after 9/11. So that's a big stat, but some people just can't hear stuff like that. So we were staying afloat barely through subscriptions, because when you have $1,000 or $3,000 problem, it takes a lot of $15 a month subscriptions to satiate that, right? If someone comes in and says, here's $3,000 bill that I don't have in a budget, I have to say, what's the plan to go make 300 new subscriptions? I don't have a marketing plan. I don't know how to do that. So those things like that could capsize the ship very easily. We stayed afloat and did things like John Taylor Gatto Project with the support of the listeners and the people in the community. And we did little fundraisers, and I exchanged, and my lead magnet was, in exchange for the fundraising donations, you could be an associate producer. And I think the ultimate history lesson has a lot a lot of associate producers, from $10 up to $100, and that helped to make the pre-production, production, post-production be able to happen, and actually buy a machine that printed out 5 DVDs or 4 DVDs at a time to make these by hand. We made 1,500 sets or 1,000 sets by hand, so that's 5,000 discs. And those types of things, like, we're doing the right thing, and I'm self-directed in what I'm doing. So I'm happy. I don't have a lot of things on my schedule. I can just be creative and productive and put stuff out, and there's a convection current. But that was keeping us from becoming parents, because we really had an attitude of, like, we would be irresponsible to become parents in this situation. We could barely keep ourselves afloat. Like, everything we're doing is antithetical to the status quo. The status quo is not rewarding us for that. I could, or Lisa could, we could go back to corporate world and we can get jobs that pay us hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars per year, but at what cost? Like, sucking 40 to 60 hours of our life out of ourselves every week for some soulless activities for the people making the problems. I didn't see that as a solution. But I also didn't see it being responsible, becoming a parent, when we only make, like, I don't know, it was $1,500 a month or $2,000 a month. We had, coming in through that method. And then I started to step up other fundraising activities. Like, I put the history blueprint, and it used to be $50. And then I changed the price to $500. And all of a sudden I started selling history blueprints at $500, whereas at $50, nobody was buying them. So I don't know how all that works, but I started studying marketing a little bit. Oh, people perceive it as more valuable. And it is. I have 50,000 thoughts in there over almost 20 years. I mean, it's a sizable offering, but I wasn't valuing myself. I wasn't stepping up for myself. I wasn't leveraging my past entrepreneurial experience whatsoever, because I was kind of closing myself off from a lot of the business world, and was kind of business antithetical for a while, where it's like, telling people what's going on in the world is more important than trying to, like, make money from it. But there comes a point where it's like, you also can't be effective in getting this message out if you're always, struggling to get offers put together to stay afloat. So you need to think better. You need to, like, 10x what you're doing. And so then I thought, well, I had that Peace Revolution podcast where it was Peace Revolution 8. It's called Parrhesia, surprisingly enough. And from the Parrhesia podcast episode, that's the autonomy curriculum. I said, someone needs to go create this thing that replaces what Gatto said was taken out, and then gives on top of that people the entrepreneur skills, right? And that's also how I started my career. I said, there's some things that need to be done and other people should be doing them. And what I discovered through those efforts is, oh, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. The thing I expect other people to do that's not being done, maybe I should do that. Maybe that's why I'm in this situation uniquely, and I can do that. Oh, I have the aptitude and the time. Maybe I should do that. It's important. It's more important than going and serving these people who are, like, antithetical to human beingness. They're trying to end humanity. They're trying to make silicon life forms that make humanity extinct. That's the gist. They're very anti-human. I don't want to give them the satisfaction. So at one point, we were at PorkFest, and Lisa and I were with Ernie and Donna Hancock. And they're like, why don't you guys have kids? You guys would be such great parents. And I just told him my excuse. I say, oh, well, Ernie, we would be irresponsible. And for some reason, because of his Erniness, he did not accept my excuse, which was the polite thing to do. It would have been impolite to just, like, let it go on. So he did the polite thing. He said, that's bullshit. You need to put your big boy pants on. Me and Donna raised 17 kids in a 1-bedroom apartment with cockroaches, and we ran a restaurant and he gave me, like, his whole, and I was like, wow, that's a lot tougher than what I'm going through. Maybe I should cowboy up. And within a year after that, we had Lucas, and it was the best decision we ever made to become parents. But I also knew, I'm doing the right thing here, but I'm not doing the right thing over here, giving all my value away for free and just expecting people to throw $15 a month over the wall for the subscription to the community. So I needed to come up with a bigger, better offer. And at the same time, I also started making offers, not on the internet, to people in real life. I started doing in real life consulting for business people locally, and then being able to formulate. I've got these 2,000 note cards in boxes. Like, first off, I have like 25,000 note cards in boxes, but I had 2,000 specifically on the autonomy course. I was like, I need to do something with this. This is like the turning point. This is the 10x moment. And I said, I don't have enough confidence in this to to just take it forward. So let me just make a soft offer. Let me say to my community, hey, I'm thinking about teaching this course and it would have these components, and I'm going to do it next year. If you guys think it's a good thing, I'll prepare for the next year and I'll create this thing. And I figured if I got 10 people that liked it, or thought it was a good idea, I would do it. And I had like a lot more than that indicated it was a good idea. So then I took it a lot more seriously. And so I spent the next year developing the autonomy course. And then I launched it again. It was actually the autonomy anniversary was like 2 weeks ago. So at an early point in November, I sent out an email. Now I didn't have a URL. I didn't have a website. I didn't have a logo. I had a concept, a vision, and I wrote it down in the email. And I made an offer, not with a fancy pay button. So what I'm saying is any of you can bootstrap without all the bells and whistles, but you need to have an offer that people are looking to take if you're not going to have all the bells and whistles. Like, it has to be very obvious. And I made an offer that they couldn't refuse. And from that, then, Joshua saw this big response and he's like, hey, how are you going to do this? He's like, I'm signed up, but how are you going to present this? And I was like, oh, I got it, bro. I'm going to film it down here. I'm going to edit it. I'm going to upload it and put it in one of the behind the paywall rooms. And he didn't say that was a awful idea, because it wasn't an awful idea. I could have got it done like that. But he said, that's an idea. Would you like to 10X that idea? And the way he pitched me was through a Loom video. So Joshua sent me a Loom video and he's like, I'm signed up. I like what you're have going on. I would like to help. I see that you're going to do this, but I'm doing this for clients already. And he just showed me. And I was like, I want that. So with that, I was like, I want this teachable platform. Can you help me administrate it? And before you know it, we're off and running. We used Teachable for a few months, and then pandemic happened. So we probably went a year or so with Teachable, which was the pre-Kajabi platform. And then when the pandemic kicked off, I had another gut check moment of, are we going to be able to stay in business with this whole pandemic thing going on? And at the end of March, we got an offer from Sabri Subi, he's the head of growth, that's his title, at King Kong Marketing in Australia. He's a good friend of one of the Tragedy and Hope community members who had said to me, hey, you should check out, he said, would you like to meet my friend from kindergarten? And I was like, I don't know, dude, that's a very passable offer. What's up with that? And he's like, well, no, sorry. I went to kindergarten with him, but he runs a multi-million-dollar marketing firm and like made it like from his bedroom with $500. And it's a really interesting story. I think you should meet him. And I did. And I interviewed him a couple of times. So Sabri approached us and he said, I have a course to sell you. And I was like, dude, I'm already teaching a course. I don't need your course. What are you talking about? And the pitch was, it's his business in a box. And I thought, man, you're stupid. You're silly. Of course I'm going to take this. Because I would have, like if I had gone to Sabri the year before and said, bro, I need to know everything that you're doing. Can I pay you 200 grand? I don't have 200 grand. But if I would have offered money like that, he would have said, no, dude, I'm not going to give you my business in a box for 200 grand. It's a multi-million-dollar business. A year later, he comes out with a course called Quantum Growth. He's like, I'll give you my business in a box. It's going to be 15 grand, but you can get it now for 10 or 12 or something like that. Right. So we had this gut check moment. Do we double down and invest in ourselves by taking this quantum growth course and putting money out there that we might need for prep? Like, we didn't know what the world was going to do at that point. So we gambled because we're like, let's bet on the future still being there. Let's bet on business being, not going extinguished and the world turning into gulag. So we had an optimistic perspective, and we said, let's invest this money. And then Joshua and I went through the course like 4 times. We went through and like sucked all the value we could out of that course. That course is worth way more than he charges for it. So that's a good thing. And from that experience, then we were able to go back to our own business and say, let's implement these things that, like, we had a plane that would fly, but Sabri's like, oh, do you want it cruising altitude 33,000 feet consistently? Like, boom, here's how you do that. Right. So it wasn't just take off and stay above the trees. It was like, get to cruising altitude. The air is thinner. You can fly more efficiently, but it takes a little more work and forethought, and you're not going to figure it out randomly, which is why he's like 10 grand or whatever it was, 12 grand for the course. And that saved us. It made our growth a lot quicker, more confident. And that adds to like the value proposition. Now we have a way to keep the plane in the air. And now it's been 8 seasons, knock on wood. I don't like to tempt nature, so I don't know how that all works, but I'm just saying. And during that time, because we had like the marketing thing down now with the quantum growth aspect, then we could just focus on adding more value to the course and developing season by season. Let's add this, let's do this. You know, breakout rooms weren't always part of the course. I think that's maybe last season we started the breakout rooms. Masterminds we started this season. So even 8 seasons in, I'm like, how can we stack more value in here? How can we find the places where people fall down and say, we know you fall down right here, here's something to help you get up so that you can keep going. And it's you racing against yourself. So the gist is, it took me a while before I saw the value exchange that needed to go on without me being dependent and like a pauper on the corner with my hat out there saying, I'll play for change. And I started as soon as I started to be more self-reliant on my own, I immediately said, oh, I'm not the only one with this problem. And I started doing, like, my first Pork Fest speech that I did, this was 2017, I think. And I said, look, if we are all dependent on donations and the thoughtfulness of others on random basis, like, we're not going to continue to be able to show up in this battle that's going to go on longer than we expect it to, probably. The people we're playing against are very well funded, and they've been working at their plan for 100 and some years. I haven't seen any organized resistance. Like, I saw it maybe 15, 20 years ago. There was a little bit of people, but now it's just people are scattered. So we need leadership. We need these skills that are in this course. We need more people being able to produce content based on objective reality, but also be able to translate that to people subjectively, right? So the opportunity for autonomy is, it's not just for you, the individuals. It is the solution to the bigger problem that started before we were born and probably goes on before we after we leave. So it's just saying these tools are probably necessary now and into the future, and people like you should be out there so that the next generation and people around you can experience such tools in action and maybe say, hey, where'd you get those? And can I get those for me too? You got that superhero belt and that cape. Can I get that for my life too? Instead of waiting for someone to come on and save me all the time, maybe I'll learn how to save myself. Sounds like we got time to do that. Let's try. So that's the gist. That's the long answer to the story. Question.
Cool.
Answer.
That's
all right.
Fantastic. But how did you get past that part where you had almost no income? How did you keep going?
Well, it was as long as we were able to buy food and pay for rent of the apartment, like, we didn't have any extravagant anything. And money that I did have, I was buying books, I was reading books, getting invaluable knowledge that I knew would be pervaded in the future. So collecting nuggets, like the digging, the mining, the collecting the nuggets, that's all hard work. Taking those nuggets to market was a lot of fun. It just took, 10 years before I started doing that.
Yeah.
Did you guys develop like any type of budgeting plan or like extreme, like financial overview and methodology?
No, that's stuff for people with paychecks. Like, when you don't know how much money's coming in, you just try to keep the bills paid for those time. And like the Peace Revolution series that I put out there, I mean, that was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of work that is out there still serving the public and the populace. There's 2 spots on iTunes where it's still found, and it's going to go into the future and do its job. It starts out with the $1 million education, because it cost me $1 million to learn that stuff, and you get it for free.
Available on TuneIn as well.
Yeah, there you go.
Everyone's doing some kind of self-help these days, and you can find a million self-help courses out there. Most other courses out there are hosting lectures. They're hosting videos, they're maybe even doing Q&As, and these are great starting points to encourage learning. But at AUTONOMY, we believe that hands-on practice is the best way to really lock in what we're learning. There's no better way to gain confidence and mastery than through action. After each lecture, we practice the concepts we've learned with other students, giving and receiving feedback in a non-judgmental environment. The result is mastery of concepts like entrepreneurship, ethical sales, and self-reliance in an environment that directly translates to the real world. Plus, you make connections with other like-minded individuals who are learning right alongside you, and you have a lifetime membership in the community. The Autonomy course with Richard Grove equips you with confidence, competence, and courage in a world filled with confusion and noise. You can learn more at getautonomy.info. We'll see you there.